Hi, everybody. Okay, so we are done talking about cell reproduction, meiosis and mitosis, and fertilization and how they're related. But they are essential to the next topic. So you definitely need to know them. So I'm going to just kind of quickly review them because we're about to talk about sexual reproduction. We're going to talk about sexual reproduction generally for all living things. And then after this, we will talk about sexual reproduction in humans. All right, so to start with, just keep in mind that men and women, all of their body cells are diploid, except for the sperm and egg, right, which are monoploid. Those body cells are diploid. They produce monoploid gametes, a sperm from a man and an egg from a woman. They fuse together to make a diploid zygote. And that diploid zygote undergoes mitosis and differentiation to make a baby that is diploid, that grows up to be a diploid adult, to produce a monoploid cell and pass on half their genes again and remix them and match them with other partners. And in this way, sexual reproduction, unlike asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction creates variation, lots of diversity among traits among us. So half of mom's genes and half of dad's genes get recombined in a new way to make a new combination, a unique baby. So that's basically the essence of sexual reproduction from a biology standpoint. From a biology standpoint, it's all about making variety. But it does come with some difficulties. You have to find a mate and you have to mix and match the genes, and that takes energy and it takes structures, and it's a lot easier to just split in half and have two offspring, but they aren't diverse. So asexual reproduction, everybody's identical, and that's a problem. Why is it a problem? Well, if everybody's the same, imagine everybody in our school, in Middletown High School, was identical, totally genetically identical, and a disease came that I was susceptible to. I couldn't fight off. So if I can't fight off the disease and it kills me, and we're all genetically identical, what does that suggest? That everybody in the population is susceptible to the disease. Now imagine, on the other hand, that there's variation, there's differences. Some of us have traits that allow us to fight the disease off, and some of us don't. Let's say the disease comes along and it kills me, I can't fight it. That doesn't mean the whole population is doomed. There's still hope for the population. That's why sex evolved, because it creates lots of variation in the population and makes us better able to handle the onslaught of new conditions. Okay, so we mix and match genes in different ways from generation to generation. So how is that done? Let's recap. We have meiosis, right? Meiosis starts with a diploid cell and ends with a monoploid cell to produce gametes. So those gametes are monoploid. And then fertilization fuses them together to make a diploid zygote. That diploid zygote is going to grow by mitosis and differentiation into a whole embryo and then a fetus. Okay, so that's the overview of sexual reproduction. Cutting chromosome number in half by meiosis and fertilization producing a diploid cell. And then we have development by mitosis and differentiation. This unit is going to talk about these two. We already talked about meiosis, so we're really going to focus on these two. Now, reproduction, whether it's fertilization or development of the embryo, can happen inside the body or outside the body, depending on the organism. So reproduction can be internal or external. Give you some examples. Fish, the female swims along, releases a bunch of eggs in the water and swims away. And then the male releases a bunch of sperm in the water and swims away. The sperm and the egg, fertilization, happens outside of the body. External fertilization, okay? Birds have internal fertilization. They do what's called copulation. and he releases sperm inside the female's body, and that fertilizes. The sperm and the egg fuse inside her body. Mammals, including humans, also have internal fertilization. The sperm is released inside the woman's body or the female's body, and the sperm and the egg fuse inside. Internal fertilization. That is separate. That's a separate question. Is the fertilization internal or external? From development. Development can be external or internal as well. So once the fish lay once the sperm and the egg fuse outside the body, they then grow outside the body. External development as well as external fertilization. The chickens and other birds, they copulate. The sperm is released inside the female, but then the baby, the chicken lays the egg, the hen lays the egg, and the baby develops outside the body, external development, just like the fish. Mammals have internal fertilization. There's intercourse. The sperm and the egg fuse inside the body, but there's also development inside the body of the mom, right, for the pregnancy. So we have two separate questions. Where does fertilization occur, inside or outside the body? And where does development occur, inside or outside the body? So we're going to start by talking about fertilization, where the egg and the sperm fuse. Now, if it's external, like these fish, this is all eggs. They've released millions of eggs into the water. Those eggs are food for other organisms that come and swim in, and they know that it's that time of year. They have just the same instinct as all these fish to come here and spawn. That's what it's called, releasing their eggs and their sperm. These other fish also know that it's time, and they come and they eat a whole bunch of the sperm and egg. And so these eggs don't have a really great chance of survival. They have a very low rate of survival. And because of that, they have to make millions and millions on the off chance that at least some of them will survive, right? So they count on the fact that their sperm and egg, their gametes, are going to be eaten before they have a chance to become offspring. And so they produce millions of them. And you can see it, they call it the Milky Way. It looks like a milky substance, and it's all over the water. It's everywhere, and the other fish eat it up. So the chances that some sperm and egg are going to actually meet up and be babies is relatively low. So they make lots and lots and lots of them, so at least some make it. That's very different than internal fertilization, like the birds. The birds, they don't have that problem. The sperm and the egg is inside the body. You're not going to have other birds coming along, or reptiles or insects, and chomping down on those sperm and egg because they're inside the chicken, inside the hen. And so internal fertilization in the case of birds gives them a real advantage. The other advantage is that they live on land, and sperm, well, they can't fly. Sperm can swim. They can swim, right? They can get to the egg through the water. But sperm, they can't fly. And so they have to have a watery environment inside to get to the egg. And that's one of the main things that you can look for. You can look for when trying to find if fertilization is going to be internal or external. If they live in the water, it's very likely to be external, though there are exceptions. And if they live on land, it's very likely to be internal, although there is an exception, which is plants. Plants have figured out how to make their sperm fly. Their sperm is called pollen, and they make it fly on the wind, and they're able to have external fertilization, even though they're land dwellers. But these birds, no, they didn't figure that out. So they have internal fertilization, so that the sperm and the egg fuse inside the female's body. And because of that, they have a pretty high rate of survival of their sperm and egg. And as a result, they don't make nearly as many eggs and sperm as the fish. Much lower number, which is good. Otherwise, they'd have billions of fertilized eggs inside their body, which wouldn't be good. So that's fertilization. That's the question about whether fertilization is external or internal, this issue right here. Next, we're going to turn our attention to development and where the baby grows. That's a separate question. Development is after the zygote is formed, after fertilization occurs. That zygote now has to grow by mitosis and differentiate into types of tissue that can also be inside or outside the body. Okay, so we can have external, like fish and eggs, chickens, birds. These birds grow, even though there was fertilization inside the hen's body, she lays the egg and the babies grow outside the body. Fish, they had external fertilization, and those fertilized eggs continue to develop outside the body in most cases. There are a few exceptions. Now, if you are a snake, you might think a chicken egg with a chicken in it would be a good meal. And if the eggs are developing outside the body and a snake comes along, it's going to eat that egg. In fact, there are animals that only eat eggs. That's their entire diet. And so that's a problem. And the birds can't pick up all their nest and carry it away with them when a predator comes. And so compared to internal fertilization, these have a very low rate of survival. You will see birds, nesting birds, will have 4 or 8 or 12 babies in a season, but there's only maybe 2 to 4 that are going to survive. And that makes sense because there's only 2 of them in their particular range, in their area, their territory, and that can only support so many birds. They couldn't possibly have all 12 survive. They make more babies than they expect to survive so that at least some make it. So they have quite a few babies compared to us. Now imagine if we had 12 babies a year. Oh my goodness, right? It's enough when you hear that a mom has had a child every year for 5 years in a row or something like that, right? That's crazy. But imagine 12 babies a year, right? There's no way those birds, all of them, are surviving. They have to have that many because maybe a couple will make it. When you talk about us, we have 1 baby every couple of years. Deer and cows might have 1 baby every year, or maybe 2 a year, right? So they have fewer babies. Why? Well, if a predator comes who likes to eat eggs, they can just run away, and when they run away, their entire baby goes with them, right? So if a predator came stalking this pregnant deer, the deer would run away and be able to pick up her baby and take the baby with her. So the baby has a much higher rate of survival, and therefore has a lower number of babies to begin with, expecting that most of them will actually make it.